7.0 public comments, recognition, and reports. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to the board on an item that's not on the agenda? Michele Martinez.
Okay, I'm a newbie, so do I have to instruct?
Okay, hi, I'm Michele Martinez, and I've been a member of this community since 2005 when I moved my family here. The reason why I'm here today is to address an issue that is a big concern to me and to my family and to friends. Oh, my heart's pounding. Okay, apologies, I just got off work, so I rushed over here. The reason why I'm here is an incident that occurred on September 12th with a member of this community that has since wrote a letter to you or the school board. And I, as a concerned parent, want to address that issue, if you wouldn't mind. On December 12th, we were invited, we meaning the junior Mustangs, cheerleaders, to come perform for halftime. As I was preparing my 10 girls, it was gathering them to, I'm sorry, I was gathering them to go out and to do their performance. A gentleman came up and just basically ranted and raved his opinion on why we should not be there, the girls should not be there, we shouldn't be allowed to be here, we shouldn't be allowed to wear a uniform. And I multiple times asked him to stop. During our performance, he continued his rant and rave out loud, which I have on video. You know, I don't care what people tell me, but those girls are members of this community and they have every right to be there, as we have been for 6 years. Not only am I the cheerleading director for the Junior Mustangs, I've been the Crown Valley Colts cheerleader for 6 years. I'm head coach for 6 years. So, as much as it devastates to have a split in the community, there is a way to rectify that situation, and that's called next year. However, when you have adults rant and rave in the manner that they did, and basically belittle the girls where they now aren't fair to wear their shirts to school and take pride in the organization that they represent, whether certain members of the community do or don't agree with, it sends a message to these kids that they're not wanted, and that was not what was intended that day. They were there to perform. And the reason why I'm bringing this up to you now is that I've been informed that this gentleman has wrote a letter to you or to the board, basically venting that same opinion, and secondly, trying to prevent one of our coaches who's been a very instrumental and fundamental coach to my son and to all 42 of the boys that I call my sons. We have been a family for many years, and I am here to support for the baseball program that Gary Rowe be considered for the position, and I'll tell you why. He's a great coach, he's a passionate coach, and he cares about the kids. I wouldn't be here before you. I work 12-hour days, I'm a police officer myself. And I know that I speak for every one of the members who left the Colts, and the reasons why we did is because we did it for our kids. And the one thing I can say about that man is he does what he does for the kids. And I'm here to support that. My son doesn't play baseball, so it doesn't affect me. However, it affects the 42 kids that do and are going to eventually go to Vasquez. You want to build a program? I suggest you start thinking about the members that live in this community that have raised these kids, like Gary Rowe and myself, who have had these cheerleaders. Many of the high school cheerleaders I coached when they were the Colts. We build the foundation to set them to go to you.
Not only that, but this gentleman that you're even taking this letter from belittled a bunch of little girls.
I haven't gotten a letter. Does anybody know about
What was his objection? To their performance or to their
them being allowed on the field in the first place? And the second opinion was that Gary Rowe should not be the baseball coach.
So, but he had no objection to what they were wearing?
Oh no, yes, he voiced that night and he put it in writing. From my understanding, I don't know where that letter exists. I know it was sent.
The letter.
I don't
know. He was threatening you that he's going to send a letter.
No, the letter was given to
I have the, and we're working with law enforcement. Understand this is a whole separate issue aside from Vasquez High School.
No, it is. And like I said, I'm also an officer, and so is the gentleman that wrote this, and him and I have never had problems up until this moment when I was huddling my little girls, and he came up and told me that we shouldn't be there, we shouldn't have a right to be there, to go back to Fillmore. I mean, inappropriate comments to a bunch of little girls. Now, on the law enforcement side, yeah, that's being dealt with. But this is the person who wrote this letter, and I'm really confused that if this board accepts that letter as any validation, then you're condoning the conduct that he did that night, which is to belittle a bunch of little girls, and he won. They're scared to wear their shirt.
I think
So putting that aside, the reason why I'm here is I'm here to defend a coach that has mentored my son for 6 years, who has mentored many of these kids, who's paid out of his own pocket to facilitate kids to play who couldn't otherwise not afford to play. I'm thinking that that should be taken into consideration.
I know.
And that's why I'm here, is that, you know.
I think the articulate case that you just made combats any letter that we might get, and we'll certainly take both sides into consideration. There's always more than one side, you know,
Well,
from
of
your
course.
field, you know.
Well, you'll never hear the truth. And nonetheless, I mean, I do have it on audio where the girls were actually performing and he was cowardly yelling at them that we should have no right to be there. We should, okay, so, I mean, like I said, my concern is that you take that one person's consideration, other than the reason that we separated from the Colts was that we did what was best for our kids, my son included, because my son would have been affected otherwise. So with that said, there's a reason why all these families followed suit. There was a breakdown between communication, between the parents, between whatever you want to call it. There was a breakdown, and the majority of that organization separated, and we tried to facilitate these kids last year, because next year you guys get them as football players or baseball players or whatever sport they choose to play. These are the kids, and we want to keep these kids in our community. And certain kids are gonna follow certain coaches, as evident by this year. So I guess my argument is, if I don't have a vote, but I am a parent, and my kids I have 3 of them in the school district, and I try my hardest to keep them in there, and I've had very good rapport with majority of the school district here and trying to facilitate my own kids' needs. But what I'm saying is, if we take sometimes these negative letters and don't take into consideration these people that are willing to donate their time, like myself, who donate, 12, 14 hours on top of my 12-hour shifts, that these are people, we're all here because of the kids. Just like I hope to one day take over the cheer program when Laura Perna decides to retire. That's my goal, and I hope I don't make myself bad in coming to you today, but you know, I've mentored these kids since they were old enough. I've been my
Is all
daughter's.
that you're saying a separate issue as from whether or not Gary Rowe should be our next baseball
I'm
coach
just
or
here
not?
to say that the gentleman who wrote that letter, it really should be taken into consideration the mannerisms as to why that happened. He belittled 10 girls in the, I'm a police officer, and believe me, put those girls aside, I don't care what he would have told me that day. Because you're entitled to your opinion.
Can I interrupt?
But the-
Can I ask you a question, brother? I brought this up at the last board meeting, maybe 2 board meetings ago, about where we were at about getting a baseball coach. And I believe I was told it was too premature, that it wasn't baseball season yet. And I'm again concerned, are we in a situation where we as a board can choose Gary Rowe to be the coach, should we so choose?
I think, again, to be quite honest with you, you might want to talk about this in a closed session, but truthfully, no. You don't have the authority as an individual board member to make that decision. The staff, in this case, Ty Lowe, the principal of the school, will go through that election process and then make a recommendation to the board.
That's what I thought you would have to say. That we're not even involved in this.
You're not involved in
Somebody
that
comes up and
process.
we approve or
That's correct.
disapprove.
That's correct.
And it's not like we can choose between 3. You're not going to give us 3 or 2 4 choices. You're going to give us one that we either approve or disapprove.
That's correct. That's why you hired the principals of Vasquez High School to make that decision. And it'll be a recommendation only, and then you'll make the approval of the
So that's what I was hoping that you could put on the record.
So let's move, we have 2 other cards.
No, that,
so
and I
let's
thank you
move
for
to
your
the other.
time. I just, like I said, I came to voice my opinion.
Thank you for being such a concerned participant.
Thank you.
I'm kind of here for the same reason, but different aspect. I actually do have a son on the baseball team at Vasquez. He is a sophomore this year, he was a freshman last year. And I didn't get to come to the board meetings last year because I didn't know what really went on. I was new, freshman player. I was told that Gary was recommended and then turned down by the board. Skylar has played for Gary before in youth baseball and has loved him. He was so excited when he got the word that he was going to get to be his baseball coach in high school. He learned more from Gary, 1.5 seasons that he coached him in youth than he did in the 6 other years that he played, because he played since he was 6. And it was actually so excited to get to play for him, and then bombshell, he didn't get voted in. And from what I was told, it was because of naysayers coming to the board and saying they didn't like Gary for one reason or another. So I just want to put my, I know he's not recommended yet. If he gets recommended again, as a baseball parent, I would like to know that, not only is he a fabulous baseball coach, but last year Skylar did end up getting to be ineligible the last 2 games of the season because of grades. He, as his youth baseball coach, went out of his way and sat Skylar down and talked to him and told him how important grades were and how, look, you don't get to play the last 2 games of your season because of grades. And even though all the stuff I'm telling him, of course, as his mother, but doesn't listen to me. But he went out of the way. He wasn't his coach anymore. He was no longer his coach. Went out of his way to talk to him about his grades and to help him know that how important grades are. To yesterday, Skylar got his first letter from college baseball. And baseball has been Skylar's dream to play college ball. I'm scared for what the program we had last year. I've grown up in this town. I actually went to Vasquez. I'm a Vasquez alumni. It scares me that he's not going to have the opportunity if we continue the road that we're doing. I know you said not baseball season yet. I am the basketball coach for JV basketball this year, and we've been practicing year-round. Baseball, all the sports, and football, he practices football year-round. I don't understand why baseball, we're waiting until baseball season to pick the coach. We need to get that program going, especially if some of these kids do want to go on to college and play college ball and all that.
Hopefully you and all the other people that think that Gary Rowe will be such a great coach will present out those arguments, letters, and every statements, everything you need to do to Mr. DeVoe, because he apparently, from what I understand, is going to be making that recommendation. And what you said a few minutes ago was not entirely correct, where people came to us and we rejected. We don't get that information here. We get a paper, it's got a name on it, and we vote yes or no. Right? So I think the salesmanship is going to have to be to Mr. DeVoe.
Oh, I did call him last year. I mean, he heard me. Last year I did get on the phone with him. I heard all this going around, and I did talk to him last year about it. So I guess he heard me again now. But yeah, I just really hope that we don't. I just hate the politics sometimes of everything.
Thank you, Jessica.
So, I was coming to this meeting tonight by myself. I actually called Mr. DeVoe to let him know. I didn't want him to be kind of, whoa, you're going to come here and talk about baseball. Or it's not even to fight my case to be the coach. It's really not. It's more of, they kind of, when I told them at football practice tonight that I was going, and Michele left work early. She goes, you know what, I'm going. I know you guys want to go. No, we're going. Jessica's a parent, a baseball player. So I'm coming here basically to say, the politics part is what took the job away from me. Okay? In my eyes, Mr. DeVoe told me, well, you're my guy. I was the one that was supposed to be recommended. I was the one that was hired as the baseball coach until people started talking. And are there people that don't like me? Sure. Am I out there at, so I had a long conversation with Mr. Distaso. Am I out there, Mr. Intense, in co-ed softball and men's softball? Yep, I am. I am a coach. I was here 5 years ago, and this is kind of my argument a little bit. I was here 5 years ago when Mr. James was let go. I was asked, I was down at Sierra Youth Sports, and someone came to me and said, look, you're one of the coaches here that you think you could do high school? I'm like, for sure. I was going to go to my alma mater and coach when I was going to move back to Torrance. You got to go to the school board meeting tonight. Why? The baseball coach at Vasquez got fired. Nobody's going to do it. They're not going to have a season. I came here and sat right here, waited, and then somebody stepped up, and I came and talked right here and said, if there's no coach, I will take it. Thank you very much. No, no, no. We have someone who'll fill in. Okay, cool. Someone fills in. You bring another guy in, and the guy that you brought in, I can't remember the name, I knew instantly from people that I know, he was here for a 1-year show. Everyone said he was going to be here for the long haul. Awesome. As a baseball parent, awesome. I want to see the program built. But I knew he'd be one and done. I knew it. What happened? One and done. And I was going to do JV with one of the other guys that applied for it with that same time. Actually, there was 3 candidates. The other 2 candidates both asked me to come. I told the one I would do it, but he gives the guy. One and done, he leaves. Then you brought in Mr. Klein. I like Rob Klein. To me, out of everyone you've had, baseball knowledge, forget everything else. I don't know anything else. Baseball knowledge, he's been the best guy you've had. I've talked to him. I talked to him your last home game. I said, hey, you need to go back there. They don't have a program. He's like, no way. Damn it. My kid's coming to Vasquez next year. We are going to ride on baseball. I am concerned about that. So he's gone. Every time it's been open, I've applied. I want to see a program built. I own my own business, so I can make my own schedule. That's how I helped build the Colts, and now I've helped build another football program. You get everyone, you guys go, and I know you guys say, well, you really weren't hired, but I'll just give that back to you. That's how I would assume that I was hired. And then the politics kicked in. And I hate it. And Ty, he walked me through. He said, look, we got to do some stuff. He's been awesome to me the whole time. He wants to build a program. I want to see a program built, whether I'm the coach or not. You know, I got a 13U baseball team that's going to, if I ever got hired, that's going to be pissed off that I might not be able to do that as well. Now I'm talking to you as a parent. Right now is the time to go and hire a baseball coach. You know, I know plenty of the baseball coaches down below. Saugus, the other, they want my son, but I know that my son plays for one of them right now. Max prep scheduling is probably locked out right now. I was told it was October 1st.
We're running out of time, Mr. Rowe.
I'm done. I just tell you, I have given my application to Mr. DeVoe again. And I'm assuming last year I was the guy he wanted to be the coach. I talked to the superintendent before, and I told him that day we talked, go ahead. If you're worried about me on a personal level, being the hothead, I call it the baseball head, go ahead. Make this. If you don't have a good coach to come in here and build a program, I'm going to stay for the long haul. I'm not moving. My kids are done. I would want to be a baseball team here. Make the leash this short if you don't have another guy.
So
make it this short.
Let's proceed with trying to identify a baseball coach now. Let's go through the normal process that we would normally do. And I don't know how long we typically wait or don't wait to hire a baseball coach, but I don't have any problem with starting now. This issue isn't going to go away. But I think that what we'll have to do is have some discussion in closed session about the issue. The only thing I will say, and then I'm not going to say any more on the issue, this community is at battle with itself over this issue. I'm going to leave it there. In fairness to Mr. Rowe and everybody else, it had battled with itself over this issue. And the school district has found itself right smack in the middle of it. And it's over a non-baseball, non-high school, non-AAUSD issue. But we're right back in the middle of it. I've had multiple conversations with Mr. Rowe about this issue. So let's start now and let's have that discussion. And as much as I would like to vet this whole thing out in open session, I think the law is going to prevent us from doing that. And I think in respect to Mr. Rowe, at least some of that is going to have to be discussed in closed session. And to the degree that we can come out and have discussion on it further, great. But no time like the present. Let's get it going. Let's have that discussion. Let's have that debate, whatever it's going to be, and we can make a decision on it. All right, we're going to move forward then and move to 8.0, correspondence, proposals, reports. Is there a member of AATA present? Seeing none. Any representatives of CSEA? Seeing none. Student representative. Ranil, what's going on?
All right, so, can we use the mic?
Yeah,
I think you should be on.
those two I think are too close together, Mr. Distaso. I think that should probably
That's
shut
why I
one
turned it
off,
off.
maybe.
I turned it off.
Okay, so on the homecoming game, that was last week, JV lost to Boron, but varsity turned the tables by defeating them 49-0. The homecoming dance had a good turnout, and it was like the whole dance was filmed, so they'll be posted in the video on the VHS homepage. By the school network, also went well, and the ASB is currently planning a motivation week with a guest speaker to try to increase school morale and also encourage students to think about their futures and themselves.
Okay. 8.4, testing.
Hey, tonight we have a couple individuals, Ms. Freeman and Ms. Simons, and they're going to be talking a little bit about the testing process, protocol, and some data that they'd like to share with us.
Good evening, everyone. Sound system's going for tonight, so I'll not use the mic. You know that our traditional testing, usually I come to you with a big presentation. You know, last year we began our new testing process, so it's a little bit shortened this year. And I did create a press release for you and just basically summarized our current assessments that we do have. The high school KC Math and ELA results are something to be very, very proud of. Across the board, we went up significantly. One of the big, huge highlights is that in our math, we increased 7%, and 92% of our high school students that took the KC Math exam passed on their first attempt. That's a huge increase over the years. If you look throughout this entire press release, you're going to notice we're really working hard to close our achievement gaps. Two significant student populations that are in this district are Hispanic populations, and you're going to note Hispanic and also our low socioeconomic students. You're going to notice throughout this report significant gains across the board in all of our areas, which means that the interventions that we brought to the district over the last 5 years, the intensive hard work of our teachers and our administration to make sure we're meeting the needs of the students is definitely happening. So I'm really proud of the results to bring forward to you today, and I'm really proud of the hard work of the staff and the students as our proficiency rates are continuing to improve. So, thank you.
Thank you. As far as the new construction front, as many of you know, we've been out working feverishly to get a project contracted for you as soon as possible. We are currently out to bid on phase 2. We've put out advertisements. We're looking for that, obviously, to come in at a reasonable amount so we can afford it, obviously, but it is as per what you directed me to go out to bid on. We've done an extensive amount of work, and you'll see some of the stuff that I have tonight will be indicative to the new phase 2 piece and some of the change orders. I'll describe a little bit about what that entails. But I can tell you that I cannot believe the amount of work that's been accomplished in a short amount of time. So Mike, I know you got a question.
I do. You can see my eyebrows go up. So I'm just going through my notes. So we were hoping last time to have we were going to make a plan by October 1st and then get an RFP out by the 8th. The RFPs went out.
Yes.
Well, today's the 9th. Very good. And we were talking about proposals being due approximately November 1st.
Approximately, yes.
I'm just curious. In the proposal instructions, did you give them a due date or?
Oh, it's always a due date. Absolutely.
What is the due date?
I can't remember, to be honest with you. JTS put those out.
Okay, thanks.
But I can tell you that, I don't know, I got to remember if we had it on the agenda. But when we talk to future agenda items, if you look under 13.0, I do want to talk a little bit, and I don't know if it's appropriate, to talk about special board meeting regarding phase 2 VHS construction. I may need to advise the board that we may need to have a special meeting, and we can talk about it when we get to that section. In anticipation of those bids coming in and making sure I have enough time. Okay?
Anything else on?
No, it's,
another question. How's
no.
DSA approval of buildings?
say that again?
It's been 2 more weeks.
DSA approval.
DSA approval.
It's not in yet.
You're going to make a call.
And we're in the process of actually going through in Tonovich's office.
You are.
Yeah, we are.
What's that mean? When are they going to make a call?
that means that we're obviously trying to put as much pressure on them as we can to actually get this stuff back to us. We're just waiting for DSA to respond.
Has Antonivich's office made a call on our behalf yet?
It would actually end up probably being more people, so not as of yet, but our expectation is they go down there with me and our architect and meet with DSA head officials.
When?
I don't have a date yet, Mike. I'll let you know if I get a date.
Are we
To
waiting?
coordinate those, I just-
For a date, or are we
Let's-
working on
let's
DSA?
cut to the chase on the real issue here. When do we have to have, what is the drop dead date to have DSA approval in order to meet our timeline to open that school by the fall of 15?
Keep in mind that there was a built-in latitude.
What is that date?
I don't have that right off the top of my head, Mr. Distaso, I don't have that critical path date. But there's a lot of fluff in the schedule now. We're well within that. Currently, if we get that back shortly, we'll be perfectly fine. We can make up the time someplace else. That's all I can tell you. That's all I can also tell you, this is not on us, that's on
I
DSA.
understand. I would just be happy if you said, the reason that the meeting hasn't happened is because Norm hasn't told me when he's available. I've asked him.
Don't forget, it's not just Norm, it's also
It's the
DSA
DSA
officials,
people.
and those folks got to agree to meet with them, and me, and the architect. So, but, you know, it's a process, and, you know, hopefully just that will get it moving. Sometimes it does. That's all I can tell you. I don't know what to tell you on anything else on that.
You can't make something up.
Well, I could. I don't do that.
Do our DSA friends know we want a meeting?
Of course.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
We keep talking about we're getting phase two because we're getting how much funds?
In excess of $14.4 million.
Okay, my question is, if we had a $13 million bond and we're getting matching funds, where's that other 1.4 million?
Well, keep in mind that it's actually,
It's not a true match.
yeah, it's not a true match. It's
based
what
on
your
formula.
eligibility, formalized eligibility.
Somebody asked me in the community where were we going to get the other 1.4 million?
No.
It's not a dollar like
complaining.
time.
We'll take it.
That's what I didn't complain when you
The
said
term
we're
match
getting.
is a misnomer.
It is.
The term match is
It's
a
basically
misnomer.
their state obligation
Okay.
based on their funding formula.
Is there also a small federal fund that we get money from also?
For construction.
There's no federal,
No.
someone asked me about that.
Not unless there was some special grant you applied for or something. I don't know.
Presumably, Larry, when you do your scoping for your project, you identify, and we did, by going through a master plan study and figuring out where our growth potential was, and you figure out what the size of your project is, and you figure out what you think that construction cost is going to be, then you typically go and you look at what your funding eligibility is from the state, and then you float a bond to match the rest. That's
Okay.
kind of the way it really works. It's not just, well, we'll give you whatever your bond amount is.
Okay.
It works, it actually works opposite.
Well, I didn't even think about it until a member of the community wanted to know where we're getting 1.4 million.
You know, rest assured, we don't have to come up with another $1.5 million. All right, superintendent report 8.6.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
I'll get this one to you when you're done. Okay, the document I just handed out, I think in some respects, obviously I want to celebrate that piece. And if you look at the first line in it, it talks about, of course, it's to the board president, Mr. Distaso. In essence, it goes through some ed code and some different things, but basically the review of our budget and the LCAP, which is our local control funding formula plan, if you will, was approved. And so that's obviously great news for us that our budget was approved and the LCAP was approved at the same time. And that means that obviously there's some the details, there's 3 or 4 pages, you can see some of the impact. But in essence, you know, we're no longer under the guidelines of Mr. Douglas. He is no longer our fiscal advisor. He's immediately, basically,
Terminated immediately. it
He's
says.
terminated immediately, according to the document. So that's a great thing. And then obviously there's some other things that they've identified in here. And as we go through some of their concerns as it relates to cash flow and declining enrollment, labor contract, et cetera, but you'll begin to see again as you can go through this, and we'll talk about it later. I just wanted to bring it to your attention because it just came today and I didn't have a chance to bring it.
Would you tie this into charter schools, whether they are subject to approval again?
Unfortunately, they didn't write this in there, but I had a verbal that they were going to lift that stay in terms of all of the charter school approvals. So I wanted them to put it in writing, and that will be our next push to get it in writing. What they're
And
going to do.
keeping in mind that this is predicated on a limited recognition of the county, our actual charter.
Actually, a $741,000 reduction in charter school.
That's where the
That's
limited county is, yes.
That's correct.
But this doesn't reflect all of the true potential income or anticipated income from the charter.
That's correct.
So that still continues to be a fight that we need to make. But
Absolutely is.
we are, this is where I gave some recognition to the county the last time we talked about it, that they were at least willing to recognize the efficacy of our plan, and that, you know, that funding is there, and hence the approval of our budget. So,
And obviously, there's, you know, I want to be clear that you remember how this works. This is, as far as the process goes, and we talk about this process of approval, it's basically just that. We don't have a status of qualified or negative or any of that. This is approving our budget that was resubmitted, the revision that you had approved recently and previously. So, you know, all of the other stuff we'll continue to talk about with legal and go through that process. So that's all I have on that. And I wanted to also talk about a couple different things, if you will. Today was in many ways, a monumental day for this district. There was a writ that had been previously submitted from Newhall School District. Today there was a hearing down and below, and also talked a little bit about next steps and some of the judge's decisions, if you will. In essence, the judge gave us a very detailed 27-page tentative ruling before the hearing started. However, that ruling was significantly modified as a result of our arguments before the judge, meaning our legal and also Einstein's legal. Understand that the ruling and the page that's currently out there, that 27-page document, is significantly altered, and it currently does not apply. However, they're going through it, through the court documents to amend it, and then they'll put out the finalized. As soon as I get that finalized document, I'll be able to give that to the board. We'll put it on the website and give it out there. Okay? It currently doesn't exist in the final form. The 27-page document does, but not the final. So, you know, there's been a lot of presumptive arguments saying, well, we won, no, we won, or whatever the case is. Let me give you the facts, and then you'll be able to read the transcript, and then we'll go from there. So first and foremost is that recently, you know, again, Newhall has already put out a statement and said something about the fact that they are victorious. And because they believe the petition has been revoked, that word was never used, it has not been revoked in any way, shape, or form. And in fact, that's so inaccurate and at best misleading and just really irresponsible to put out that kind of message initially. We also understand that, you know, Einstein's position is under review. We're going to be talking about what that process is, and the judge will clearly outline what that process is. And let me be very clear. Albert Einstein SED may continue operations while AAD-USD and the petitioners take action to approve, or possibly put before the board for approval a new replacement charter that will address the concerns that the judge had. Let me also lastly say to the board and to anyone, the judge also clearly indicated that this district and no one in this district has violated the law in any way, shape, or form. So, however, there are some things he would like us to shore up in terms of the petition. There's going to be a process of 120 days, and we'll be getting to take a look at that. As soon as I get that information, I'll release a statement. We'll give it to the board. We'll give an opportunity to kind of elaborate on what I'm talking about and be able to go from there. Obviously, we see it as a very positive step in the right direction. And those students that we authorized to attend in Santa Clarita are continuing to be there, and they will continue to be there for the duration. So that's pretty much all I have on that.
And you might just add that this is somewhat related to that SB, was it 1263, 1063, where they tried to modify the charter schools being allowed to put in other areas, and Governor Brown declined to sign the bill.
That's correct.
So it's not the law.
Right, and yeah, that does not apply in this case, obviously, because Governor Brown did not sign it. So,
So the law is the same.
the law is the same, and it was clearly indicated we have, and at no time, nor did we violate the law in any way, shape, or form. And to say anything other than that is irresponsible at best.
Is that SB 1263?
SB 1263, yes.
I will just go on the record to say that I sure do hope that Mr. Rowe and the other people that make the choice make the best baseball coach we can get, and that it has nothing to do with politics. We heard the term politics, and my grandson, while he doesn't go here now, was heavily into baseball, and I've seen all the problems, trials, and tribulations that we've gone through for the last 7 and 8 years in baseball, and I hope this isn't another one. I hope we get the best coach so we can have the best team and maybe be able to celebrate some great victories.
But in response to that, Larry, I always get a little bit of angst, not with you, but what you said. When the word politics is brought up, well, this happened because of politics. And they make it look like politics, a four-letter, nasty, pornographic word somehow. Okay. If we call politics governance, where we're trying to make best possible decision for our students and not create a hailstorm in the school by the choices that we make, and not create a situation where we are accused by one side or the other of having made a horrific decision and caused disruption to the school, disruption to the team, disruption to the district. If that's what we would want to define as politics, I play politics. I play it, yes. As long as it's defined the way I just defined it. That in terms of our governance, it's our duty to make sure that we're governing in such a way that we are looking at public opinion and we are looking at what the end results will be of any decisions that we make. And it's not always as easy of saying, you are the absolute best baseball coach on the planet. And I'm not speaking about anybody in particular. Just speaking in general terms, a given party could be the best possible baseball player or baseball coach on the planet. But if he's the son of the devil, I don't want to have anything to do with it. And so as we address these issues, we just need to be able to ferret out those facts so that we are making a decision, because it's really easy. You can go and find somebody who's the best baseball coach. Question is, the reason we're kind of in this situation to begin with is because there were issues with a prior baseball coach years ago who arguably was one of the finest baseball coaches we ever had, but because of other issues, we had to part ways. And so unfortunately, governance isn't always that simple or easy. So I hope too that we find the best possible baseball coach, and I don't want to let any rumors or sour grapes on any given party's fault stand in the way of that. But I also want to make sure that we don't create hailstorms.
Mr. Distaso, I also want to add that because of privacy laws and other ways which restrict our ability to discuss things openly, a lot of times a person might have all the merits in the community, and there might be issues. And I'm not talking about anyone in specific, I'm talking in general. And we can't exactly come back. And
We've had it with other coaches before.
Yeah, so,
For female teams, male teams, we've had these issues before, where there's been these problematic spurs that crop up. And, you know, this situation is no different than any myriad of decisions that we've had in the past.
it's kind of hard for us because we can't always express our case publicly to the, to the complete,
And I don't even know, Ed, if we even have a case. Honestly, I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I really don't know any of the candidates for baseball coaches. The only one that I ever knew was Mr. Klein, Charlene's husband. Otherwise, I don't know that I could recognize half the people who apply. So when it comes to interjecting some kind of personal opinion or what have you, it's really a matter of, and this is where we have problems being able to communicate openly so that people understand, is when there's a hailstorm on the horizon. When you hear the pellets on your roof, you know something's fallen from the sky. Okay? And for us to ignore it would be problematic. It would be good governance to do that. So we just have to ferret out all of the issues, and that's why I'm suggesting that we start now. And because the process might be a little bit more drawn out than it normally is. And so let's start now to give us time to make it right, because I think that's what Larry's looking for, is that we make it right. So let's make sure we make the right decision. And in this case, because of the circumstances, it might take a little bit more time, so we'll start there.
I mean, I just have to think, I hear what you're saying. My only put on all this is, it would be nice if perhaps we look for a uniter, because it's clear there's some division out there. So, at some point that's a factor, is the ability to.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're alluding to for hailstorms, but it's clear there's some division out there.
And also, it affects our budget, because when there's problems in sports and people get mad and take their kids elsewhere, there's thousands of dollars for a yen. And Santa Clarita took a lot of our people and teachers.
How long have we done this, Larry, over the years? With people standing up saying, well, if that happens, I'm pulling my kid. I mean, that has become such a, and I guess if you have a 20,000 kid school district, it'd be kind of easy to look at some people and say, please leave. We'll pay your exit fee. Okay. But when you're a small school district, you can't afford to have that kind of thing happening, and our position should be is to attract and train and retain students by giving them the best possible education and the best possible service. And part of that is who our coaches are.
we're not resources.
And what they do. Arguably, you would look at sports and say, well, it's really more important what goes on in the classroom, but not everybody takes that position, as you know. Sometimes what happens on the field is what's most important. And we've been through this before. This isn't the first time. This room has been filled in the past. So let's start now and be wise about what we do and make the right decision. That's right. Fifth, and warrant register. Do you have a move?
So moved.
Second.
Call the question. Aye. 4 with 1 absent. 10.0, Educational Student Services. 10.1, public hearing for the sufficiency of instructional materials. The board will conduct a public hearing to receive input about the sufficiency of textbooks and to ensure that they're aligned in content standards that are consistent with the content cycle curriculum framework adopted by the State Board of Education in various educational disciplines. We're going to open this hearing at 8:22. council people that want to weigh in on the sufficiency of our instructional material? Is there anyone here looking to do that? Seeing none? We're going to close the hearing at 8:23. And we're going to move to 10.2, Resolution 14-15.01 on sufficiency of instructional material. Do we have a move? Second?
Second.
This would be the time for any board discussion on the sufficiency of instructional materials or staff discussion. Are there any on the part of the board or staff? Seeing none, this will be a vote to pass the resolution. Call the question. Aye. Personnel Services, 11.1, approval of certificated employment, employee number 141543, VHS Spanish teacher. Do we have a move?
So moved.
Call the question.
Aye.
Aye. 11.2, approval of classified employment. We have 4 employee numbers, all related to special ed instructional aides from Walmart. Do we have a move?
Move. Second. Are we hiring 4 different?
Yeah, let me describe, these particular positions are within budget. They've already been established as part of our special education budget. We're actually way under that budget, and but these particular positions, as evaluated by Ms. Freeman and her team, are required by the IEP. These are part of the traditional pieces of the IEP.
Just a general comment. We're doing this on October 9th, so school's been in session for about a month. Is there an issue with services to these children prior to this?
No, we've been able to mitigate some of that, and obviously, but these particular employees are also for additional students that we may have received that have just gone through that evaluation process.
Okay. More discussion? Call the question.
Aye.
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 11.3, approval of consultant agreement with Behavior Learning Center. We have a move. I'll move.
I'll second.
Just for the record, Dr. Woodard, this is a consultant agreement that we're basically required to enter into for what type of service?
This is, again, as per an IEP, special education specific situation. This is a consultant agreement with the Behavioral Learning Center that as required through the IEP team.
For discussion?
Also budgeted?
Also budgeted and within budget. Yes, sir.
Call the question?
Aye.
Aye. 12.1, wage settlement agreement, quarterly report. Do we have a move? Second?
Second.
Staff or board discussion? Call the question?
Aye.
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 12.2, change order number 1. Here we go. DBA JTS Construction Vasquez High School, project for phase 1. Do we have a move for this change order?
I'll move.
Second?
Second.
Okay, so let me give you a little report, if you will, on this particular one, under 12.2. In some ways, it's a combination of things, and I want to kind of point out what those are. And if you will, I don't know if you want me to go itemized what they are. Okay. So let me give you the highlights, okay?
I think probably, rather than go through all of the details that the line items that add up to the cost,
Okay.
is to just state what the unforeseen issue was that we're,
Okay.
I think that would probably be sufficient.
Okay, first and foremost, I want to remind the board and the public that we did budget for about $180,000 of change orders. And so this is obviously within that parameters of the $180,000. And it is exclusive to change orders. Okay? It is not for anything or any other purpose to include the facade as per Mr. Fox, our discussion. And so there are periodically some unforeseen, pre-existing issues. In this case, there was a pipe in the ground that was there that we didn't know about it in the as-built. And as we went through the as-built, obviously they're not on the plans. There's There's no way that JTS could have known they were there, nor could the construction crew knew they were there. So as they began to build the road or trench or wherever that ended up, they ended up running into this pipe and they had to mitigate that. This was negotiated down significantly from original submission from the construction firm, and we vetted it in several weeks going through the process of the protocol, feeling that it is legitimate in that it was not on the pre-existing plans that we provided to JTS.
What was the pipe for? I'm just sick curiosity.
I'm sorry?
The pipe that wasn't on the as-built plan from the last campus, what was it, its function?
I think it was a drainage pipe that was previously there that wasn't on any plans that we had.
And the net value, I know, I've seen the itemized list, there's a given, some uppers, some downers for these change orders. The net bottom line for the value of the change orders associated with 12.2 is how many?
46,000 and change.
Yeah, but then remember, I've got some credits on there.
Right.
So I've got some credits, but then, you know, so I'd have to calculate.
Because it goes to the context against the $180,000
So,
bond.
okay, maybe I misread it. So I was looking at the credits being factored in to arrive at the 46.
And that's what I'm saying. So you add and subtract, and you go back and forth, and I believe that the net value was $46,749.
So, 20%.
We have 134 left.
20%.
That's
We're
about-
deep into the cycle.
But keep in mind, one of the issues that we're doing is also to enhance for phase 2. So if we do it now, it helps cut our costs as opposed to doing it later after everything's installed. So that actually saves us money. So,
that's
and I understand it looks like it's
not
phase 1, but it's not. It's actually phase 2. Thank you. You bet.
Any other discussion? Approved change order call in question?
Aye.
This won't be the last one.
No, it's just beginning. And especially, you should know that, but thanks, Mark. Truthfully, we are looking at ways to value engineer phase 2 and make sure that, and I've already told you that, to do stuff now so it's cheaper, like the 6 classrooms that we're going to be building and adding on now so we can pour cement now as opposed to coming back, et cetera, et cetera. So we're doing everything we can to get it through DSA, get it in now and amend particularly this contract or get it in phase 2. So we'll be back with you ASAP.
Okay. 12.3 professional service contract with JT Engineering, revised site work plan regarding phase 2 of Vasquez High School. Do we have a move?
Move.
Second?
Let me give you a quick summary of this particular piece. As you remember, as a result of our redesign, we elevated the site and what it was previously designed for. Remember that we went back to phase, the first iteration of the complete site plan, that had a lower elevation. Now that it's 4 feet higher and other elevations have changed, we have to get JT Engineering to redesign all the underground and coordinate and organize all of the undergrounding. And basically, it's all a design function as a result of the elevation change. Now that we're into phase 2. We would have had to do it when we went to phase 2. This is now obviously the process, and we need to get them started to make those changes.
So I guess I conceptually, it's a change to phase 2's old plans to bring in current with the current elevation so that we can execute phase 2.
You just can't say add on 4 feet of pipe. Doesn't work.
How much is this change?
36.9.
And ultimately, will that come out of the phase 2 funding dollars?
Yes. This
Well,
is for work site plan of phase 2.
Are we not here in part because we elevated the site in order to prevent all that dirt removal?
That's correct.
So the dirt removal was going to cost us about $1.5 million.
It was.
So spending $37,000 in order to save $1.5 million is good math for me.
Good. I'm just trying to figure out
Yeah,
what
but-
product's coming out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to
There's gonna be some additional stuff, you'll see the next one on, not to jump ahead, but there's architectural revisions, and we'll be looking at that, and there's a couple other things that'll be coming forward, because now we're talking a whole separate project. Phase 2, completely different project, completely different design, et cetera, et cetera. We need to,
I think where it gets a little fuzzy, it'll be up to, you know, the consultants to work through this, is because we have a contract in place for phase 1, and there's a fixed amount to that. But now we're looking at phase 2, and we're thinking, well, we ought to be doing a lot of stuff in phase 1 to help reduce the cost in phase 2. So that's going to drive up the cost in phase 1, but it's an artificial drive up because it's going to actually come off the top from phase 2. So how you're going to draw lines?
so here's what we're doing. You'll like this. We don't anticipate, again, and we'll go through that process. We're not going to basically put these contracts in play. We're not going to pay them and go through all that, and we won't be executing the contract until we actually get our phase 2 money. Remember, we're about a month away from being able to do that.
Yeah.
So we don't anticipate any problem, but it's, at least we got everything in tow and everything.
Laying the foundation.
Exactly, thank you. No fun.
Okay. Read the revised site work plan for phase 2. Call the question.
Aye.
Aye. 12.4 Architect Engineering Service Agreement revision for Christophe Architects. Do we have a
Move.
second?
I'll second.
Okay, if you will recall, when we went back on the phase 1, we decided to go to modular, we did an amount, and then this is basically for pre-construction services as it relates to phase 2. We awarded Gary Rowe an amount to coordinate those services and all the disciplines, okay? This has an additional $4,000 in it because, I hate to put it this way, but as with any construction project, people disappear. And in this particular case, our security consultant is no longer available and in business. So we basically have to start over with a new security consultant because the previous work was proprietary and we can't use his old work. Okay, so we have to now go back and hire a new security consultant and start over with phase 2.
We should do it proprietary, always do so.
No,
Because you're beholden to that guy. It's like when we changed all the locks in the district.
we're trying to now change some of that and say,
Previous
okay,
superintendent.
yeah.
And it was proprietary, so now we have to go with that guy.
But as we design the phase 2, he's no longer available, he's out, he's gone.
So the net increase in cost here is,
It was a total, there's an additional $4,000 what was previously, the net increase is $11,500. But we only paid Gary approximately $7,000, $7,500 last time. So there's an increase of $4,000 because of the security consultant.
and we have a not to exceed clause in there.
That's correct, you can see that in that second paragraph.
Okay,
Third.
board discussion? Call to question. Aye.
Aye.
Future agenda items. Special board meeting regarding phase 2 VHS construction, and you said you wanted to have more
Yeah,
discussion.
what I'd like to propose is that the board hold open November 6th. I may need that for you to come to a special board meeting and take a look at a contract that I'm putting together for JTS and leaseback. So if at all possible, please put on your calendar
November
November 6th.
6th.
It's a critical meeting to get that to Sacramento in time.
How long
I
do
may
you-
not need it, I may be able to do it the 13th.
How long do you anticipate that meeting?
That's up to you, but we'll probably need at least an hour or two.
So I would say, I will make myself available as soon as possible. So when you have the stuff ready, I put it, don't wait, because who knows what can happen between here and Sacramento.
But remember what our process is as soon as we get the bids, we're going to vet all of them, and you gotta go through insurance, you gotta go through all of that process. So I won't have them prepared and to be able to present to you in a contract any sooner than November 6th.
I understand.
Okay.
I just heard you saying, well, maybe I'll wait till the 13th. Don't do it on account of us.
Our deadline to the state was November 18th or something?
Yes. So I might make it on the 13th, but But I agree, I appreciate it. That's why I want you to hold the 6th if I
I
need
would just as soon do it on the 6th.
Me too.
Okay.
If you can get there,
Yeah,
we'll be here.
That's what I'm saying. If I can get it
That's
done, I
my
want to get it on the
point.
6th.
I didn't make it well.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
understand, we talked about this, bids, RFPs went
Yeah,
out,
we
bids
don't
are
wanna
coming in
place
around the 1st.
Chicken wings.
When you're ready, call
Okay.
us.
Well, that's what I'm saying, I might be done on the 6th. I'd like you to hold that open so I can use that.
I want to hire some guy from the Pony Express to deliver that thing personally to Sacramento.
So is
Supposed to
that
apply the water.
consensus that everyone can hold that open?
Yes.
I can.
I will hold that open.
What day is that? What day
It'll
of the
be
week
the
is that?
Thursday prior.
Oh, it is a Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that open to the public, or is that? because
Oh, it'll be
it's
public, yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's contract stuff and all of that, so we know where it was.
Yeah, we'll have to post it prior and all that, yeah. It won't be a 24-hour notice. It'll have to be a week, so. I'll know by then if I can get it done. It's a lot of work, but we'll get it done.
Not saying don't do due diligence, just saying don't make what.
No, okay. I'll make myself, thank you.
Okay, we have 14.0 calendar. Our two next subsequent board meetings are listed. 15.0 closed session. We discussed pending legal matter with Newhall, nothing further, nothing to report out, no action taken. So we will move to 16.0 adjournment.
So moved.
Mr. Porter, second.
I'll second. Before we go, so 15.1, there's nothing to move or second.
No,
I'm clerk.
no, there's nothing to report out on.
All right, just in case Bruce is leaving.
That's right. Present by your public.
Okay. To adjournment, call the question.
Aye.
Aye.